Welcome back to After Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levi, your co-host, Shaq. We're going to be talking UFC 213, Amanda Nunes versus Valentina Shevchenko, and Robert Whittaker versus Yoel Romero. And I mean, what else do I got to say? Robert Whittaker versus Yoel Romero. It's finally here. Holy shit, let's break down this card, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's the greatest middleweight fight of all time, and that's just not the only thing on the card. We got Jordan Mean, Bilal Muhammad. We got Thiago Mejia Santos against this really good submission dude, Gerald Mershert, Chad Lepre, Travis Brown, Alexi, Showtime Pettis, and Jim Miller. So I'm pumped up.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And, let's start off at the beginning. Normally we don't start off at one of the first fights of the night, but I think a little something here. And we got Cody Stamann. He's minus 275. He's taking on Terrion Ware, who's plus 235. What do you know about this newcomer, Cody Stamann?
I mean, as far as the fight goes, Cody Stamann, he's one of these wrestlers with very good striking. He's got a lot of kicks in his arsenal. He trains with Darren Cruikshank, and Terrion Ware, he kind of reminds me of Sean Spencer. They have success if you stand right in front of him. He's just strictly boxing fighter, but I think Cody Stamann is going to work him in this fight, and rather easily. We have a huge wrestling advantage in this fight. I've seen Terrion Ware get taken down by former flyweights like Papizian, go in there and get taken down easily against a guy named Nick Malminas or something like that in ACB. And, I mean, the entries were just terrible. And Cody Stamann, I mean, he's a very measured kid. When he on the regional scene, he doesn't go in there and he doesn't trade sloppy in front of these jobbers. He goes in there, he stays measured. He uses those side kicks and keeps you at bay. He throws spinning kicks, a lot of flashy stuff like his teammate Cruikshank, and he's got the wrestling, and he's way faster, he's stronger, and he's got a wrestling advantage. So, I parlayed Cody Stamann with Tisha Torres at minus 124. I think it's going to be a fairly easy win. I think he's going to dominate him in every aspect. I just think Terrion only has success if you stand right in front of him. And Cody cuts angles. Cody shoots takedowns. And I'm really interested to see how his UFC career goes from here. I think he's got the potential to be a UFC staple, maybe even a top 15 guy in the future. But I think he's going to work Terrion Ware here.
So Shaq's pretty high on this guy. I mean, look, I saw a couple of clips, and this kid can kick.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that right now. And he's pretty big for the weight class as well. But Terrion Ware, he's got a lot of experience. He's been in there with UFC vets, so he's no spring chicken himself. So it's going to be a very intriguing fight. But I do think there's a reason that Cody Stamann is a minus 275 favorite. I don't think this is some kind of oversight, and I do think the rightful favorite should go here and take the victory, most likely by decision. This is his UFC debut. You know how that tends to go, but don't be surprised if he goes out there and gets a finish. I mean, what are you expecting here, Shaq?
I think he is going to finish him, man. I think he's going to make a statement in his debut, catch him with some type of kick, or just slowly beat him down with kicks and punches. But Terrion's not going to have his way here. He's going to either get taken down and smashed with ground and pound, or Cody's just going to do his thing on the feet and win an easy decision here.
You ready for fireworks?
Yeah.
We got Rob Font. He's minus 335. The comeback on Douglas Silva de Andrade is plus 275. And for a fact, when these two go in there, they're going to throw down until one guy falls down. The question is, who's going to fall down? I mean, look, Rob Font, he is the bigger guy in there. But Douglas Silva de Andrade, I got to give him a lot of credit. Let me tell you how much I respect this guy, Shaq. He comes off a 2-year layoff, and a bunch of things change within the sport. He comes back in the Mexico City elevation, and not only does he win by knockout, he wins by third round knockout against a tough warrior like Henry Briones. So, I mean, Douglas Silva de Andrade has all my respect, but when you talk about a guy like Rob Font, obviously he wins most of his fights, but the only guys he lost to are very elite guys. I'm talking about guys like John Lineker. I'm talking about guys like Desmond Green. Rob Font, if you're a slouch, Rob Font's not going to lose to you. But Douglas Silva de Andrade, look, he's got one of those boxing records. And what I mean by that is he's 24-1. And there's only 3 guys on the UFC roster that have boxing-type records. And I'm talking about Douglas Silva de Andrade, Jimmy Rivera, and Tomas Almeida. Coincidentally enough, they all happen to be in the same weight class, and I hope they all fight each other. 2 of them are fighting each other right now. But bottom line here is, obviously fights aren't contested on paper. This motherfucker wins a lot of fights. That's what I'm trying to say here. So Rob Font needs to be on his A game to win this fight. I do think if he shows up, he will be able to, he's the longer fighter out there. I do think he's going to, clip de Andrade at the end of his punches. If he has to use his size and use those takedowns at the end of rounds, I do think that they're going to be available. But this isn't going to be a walk in the park here. He's not going to just go in there and get an easy win. He's going to have to battle for it. Silva de Andrade, look, if anyone takes the shot here, honestly, at plus 275, when you got a guy that's 24-1, and it's not just the number, it's the way this guy fights. I don't blame anyone at all, but personally, at the end of the day, gun to my head, I do think Rob Font is going to go out there and get the victory.
Yeah, for those parlaying Rob Font, be very careful here because Douglas Silva is no slouch. I mean, this guy is brutal. He's like what I call a bruiser. I compare him to something like, Neto BJJ for something. Like, his physique's it's so intimidating, and everything he throws, you feel it. You know what I'm saying? And Font, he is the better fighter here, but the thing why I like Font in this fight, I'm not betting it at minus 335, but the reason why I like him is he doesn't go out there and he doesn't brawl. Rob Font sticks to a game plan. He's a very well-trained fighter. But if he did get into a firefight with Andrade, that would be a huge mistake because Andrade can crack, and all he needs is one shot to put you out. And we've seen Rob Font, in the past. Granted, it'd be against one of the hardest-hitting bantamweights in the world, John Lineker. He did flop to his back a couple times due to body shots, but hey, it is what it is. He took it like a man, and he didn't get finished. And he hung in there with Lineker, man. He popped Lineker's head back a couple times with some jabs, but Andrade is no slouch, man. I'm kind of scared of that dude, to be honest. So I wouldn't bet against him, but hey, it is what it is. I got Rob Font 230-27, so 29-28, but it's gonna be a really good fight.
I mean, what he proved in his last fight, Andrade, is that, I wanted to say here, I'm willing to make a bet that he's going to be in the UFC a long time, but the dude only fights, once every 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So, maybe I'm going to take that one off the table, but bottom line is, this guy's a winner in every sense of the word, but Rob Font's a gamer as well, and I do think he's the rightful favorite in this spot. Now, man, this one's real intriguing right here. We got Bilal Muhammad. He's minus 140. The comeback on Jordan Meehan is plus 120. Now, Jordan Meehan's one of these guys that, it's a mental thing with Jordan Meehan, because physically speaking, all the tools are there, man. I mean, when he lets his hands go, those combinations that it's almost like a left hook shovel punch that he landed on Mike Pyle, where he sent him launching. I mean, that was... That was straight out of a movie, you know what I'm saying, man? And then also those elbows against Evangelisto Cyborg. He's, back when he beat Dan Miller, he escaped that deep armbar, and then he goes out there and knocks him out. I was like, man, this dude's made out of a lab, But speaking of being made out of a lab, a lot of things have changed in this sport, and I don't think he's the same guy anymore. And, I don't like to rush to say that thing about fighters at that level of the game. But when you see a fight like the Thiago Alves fight where, he's the hammer and he looks like a world champion, but as soon as, a single second of him being the nail, it's over. That's all she wrote. And even prior to that, so the first round, he looks like a world champion. Second round comes out, he's doing somersault. He loses his concentration. And then he takes one body kick, he takes a knee, and that's all she wrote. He retired after that point. He comes back, and then you guys saw that fight with Mech where, first round while he was fresh, he landed some big shots, but he succumbed to the pressure and to the guy who simply wanted it more. It wasn't the better fighter that won that night. It was the guy that wanted it more. And with Bilal Muhammad, he's one of these guys that in most cases he wants it more. The one time he lost, or the 2 times he lost in the UFC, it wasn't a case of, someone outwilling him or outworking him. He got hurt in both of those fights really badly. In the Alan Jouban fight, he almost came back. Almost. If there were 5 rounds, it would have been a different case, but it was a 3-round fight. But look, Alan Jouban, he's one of the top guys on planet Earth. And then against Vicente Luque, what can I say? Vicente Luque was riding hot at the time, caught him with a perfect counter. Bilal does tend to keep that chin up in the air at times. But Bilal also moves his head. He also sets up that jab. He also mixes it up to the body. But more importantly, it's that mindset that he brings to the table that's different than Jordan Meehan. Jordan Meehan's got the physical tools here, but Bilal has got the mental fortitude going here. And I feel like the upside in this spot goes to Bilal Muhammad. And I do think that he's going to be able to weather all the, there are going to be some tough spots. Bilal might even get dropped in this spot, but I do think that he's going to be able to eventually survive what Jordan Meehan brings to the table, come back, take over late, pressure Jordan Meehan, and win this fight, whether it's a late stoppage or a decision, which, he's known for. You can mix some takedowns in there too. But that being said, I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do as far as a bet yet because, it was minus 165. I wasn't liking that price, but now it's minus 140. Now we're talking, so I'm going to be patient on this one. Let's see where the public takes it. The public seems to like Jordan Meehan, which is a good sign for us. So we're going to be patient, keep our eyes on it, and if it hits a tiny bit lower, I think we're going to move in. So, I got Bilal Muhammad for the victory.
Jordan Meehan, back in the day, one of the nastiest strikers there is in the game. The elbows, that vicious, left hook, right hook combination that he throws and those straight lefts. And even back in the day, it's always been the mental thing with him. You guys remember that Hernani Perpetua fight when he wins the first 2 rounds, and in that 3rd round, something happens where Hernani cracks him, and he's like checking out, looking for a way out. Luckily, he already won the first 2 rounds, so he was able to rely on that. Against Bilal, Bilal, let's be honest here, he's too small for the weight class, and coming out of these exchanges, his stance, one of his hands are always at his waist. So the thing with him is he tends to get clipped coming out these exchanges a lot. Granted, his last fight against Randy Brown, Randy's just too green. And, against Augusto, what's his last name? Montano. That's a guy who's just not UFC level, so I feel like he was, able to get past those. But in this fight, man, I don't want him on the feet with Meehan at all because, for this fight, we all know that Jordan Meehan is not a social media guy. For this fight, he made a social media account. He posted training. Yeah. He posted training footage. He posted training photos. He's at the UFC Institute. And we know this guy's, super antisocial. And the fact that he did that makes me think that, man, he's taking this fight seriously. Like, he might come in shape. Like, he might come back this old mean. So at minus 165, I was like, nah, I'm good. But now I see Bookmaker has it at minus 129, so I'm hoping BetDSI has it somewhere around there as well. And I like that line just because once you retire from the sport, that means your head and your brain is already checked out of it. That means you want to know more. As where Bilal never thought about that. Bilal's still young in the game. Jordan's only 26, 27, but in the fight game, we're talking about a guy with like 40, 50 fights already at that age.
He's like 97 in the fight game.
Who turned pro. He turned pro when he was 16 years old. Because
he fought Rory McDonald in like his first fight or something.
And because his dad's a fighter, and his dad just put him into the fight game at such a young age, which probably detrimented him a little bit. But
his dad still fights.
Yeah. And, I just think it's a case of Jordan taking too many fights at a young age. And, Bilal, if he sticks to that game plan of wrestling, and I actually think Bilal's wrestling and his ground game is catching up with his striking. We saw that Randy Brown fight. That's what won him the fight, and he dominated him in that area. Like I said, Randy Brown's green. But Jordan Meehan in his fight against Mech, at this stage in your career, you're still letting that happen to you. And I attribute that to him retiring, him checking out. So if any type of adversity happens in this fight, if things don't go Meehan's way right off the bat, we could see the same thing happen. We could see Bilal take over and just completely break him. But, I need that line to be around minus 130, minus 135, or minus 129 like Bookmaker has it. If it does hit that line, I'll definitely be playing it. But, I'm scared of Mean on the feet. I mean, it's young gun Mean, bro. Like, we've seen what he's done to dudes, and he's still got some left in him. He's not completely done yet. He's still fairly young. And so at minus 165, I don't like it, but the pick is Bilal Muhammad, but be very careful.
Man, when it was first announced, we were very confident in Bilal. What happened?
But then we looked at Instagram and we saw that Mean's motivated for this fight. And I know he wasn't motivated for the mech fight. He probably didn't know who this guy was. He's laughing in the octagon when he gets hit, and he's just checking out. And all the pre-fight interviews before that, he said, I was completely done with the sport. I didn't want to fight anymore. So when you say things like that, that means you're done.
Yeah, and also the whole Ramadan thing is a little.
Yeah,
respect to Bilal, but.
But I won't go too much into depth like that. But he doesn't have that much water in his head. Just put it that way.
Yeah, that's all I gotta say. He's not fully fed and hydrated.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's a real badass because you remember that third round against Alan Juban.
Yeah, he almost came back. Bilal's relentless if he's still in there, But if Mean can come in that first round and get him out of there, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, Mean's motivated for this fight.
Allegedly. Yeah, I got Bilal Muhammad, and I might be releasing a play on him in the next couple of days. Stay tuned. But next up, we got Thiago Marreta Santos. He's minus 145. The comeback on Gerald GM3 Mearshart is plus 125. Now, I hate to be the guy that's like, oh, this is striker versus grappler, but, this is striker versus grappler, dude. Is Thiago Santos going to go out there and knock out Gerald Mearshart, or do you think Gerald can weather that storm, go out there, take the back of Thiago, and choke him out, similar to how Eric Spicely did?
It's a tough fight in some sorts, but I actually think Thiago's gonna knock him out in this one, man. When the line opened up, Thiago actually opened up this fight as the underdog, and I know Thiago is a tapper. When I say tapper, I mean Michelle Watterson tapper, like. Like tap the mat, like. Not even tap the arm, but like tap the mat, like bang on it to get out of there. He's one of those type of guys. So if Mearshart gets an arm bar, we might see Thiago bang on the mat to get out of there. But let's be honest, Michelle Watterson will tap that mat, bro. If you tap the mat, bro, you're officially you're a tapper. But in this fight, it comes down to a Melvin Gillard tapper. Mearshart, man, he's solid with his jiu-jitsu. He's got some nasty jiu-jitsu. Most of his wins are by sub, and a lot of his losses are by sub as well. But I think Thiago's going to stuff the takedown here. I think Mearshart's best chance is to get into some kind of crazy scramble, which could work out, but I don't see it happening. I think Thiago's coming off ready off that Jack Marshman win. I think he's going to stuff the takedown, and I think he's going to blast Gerald with some hard body kicks that he's never felt before in the UFC. Let's just put it this way. This ain't Ryan James anymore, and this ain't Capo Joe Galati anymore. This is Thiago Marreta, and I think he's going to get a bad, rude awakening to a different level of competition.
It's one of those things, man, where it's kind of tough to say because it's like, is Thiago going to go out there and absolutely starch him, look unbelievable, look like a world champ? Or is he going to, be the guy that lets Eric Spicely finish him in the first round in under 2 minutes? You know what I mean? So, you're flipping a coin on if he drops the ball or not. I'm going to go ahead and say, even though GM3 is a guy, he trains at Rufus Sports, so he's training with some serious strikers on a daily basis. It's not like Thiago Marreta is going to be the first real striker he faces in there. Plus, the guy's a vet. He's the guy that tapped out Sam Alvey like 7 years ago, you know what I mean? He's been around for a long time, so the odds makers also opened GM3 as a favorite for a reason. The public switched it around. So it's about, do you think this is going to be Thiago Marreta's, breakthrough performance where he goes out there, stops him with another body kick, a head kick? Or do you think GM3 can take what he's got to, what he brings to the table, take him down on the ground and, get him to tap on that mat? So you said you had Thiago?
Yeah, I got Thiago here, man. By first round finish.
You know what, man? Honestly, I'll go with GM3 by first round finish.
Well, interesting.
May the best man win. Now, this one I don't think we're going to disagree on because we got Chad Lepre. He's minus 500. He's taking on Brian Camozzi, who's plus 400. Now, Brian Camozzi, he's what we like to refer to as a jobber, as a Camozzi. He's a Camozzi, and it's not some other Camozzi. It's the Camozzi's brother, you know what I mean? And he's fighting Chad Lepre, who's moving up in weight class, and I think that Chad Lepre, he's going to be able to take shots better at 170 pounds. And, man, he's a pretty decent striker, man. I mean, he's got a nice little point striking style, Jab, jab, move around, inside leg kick, switches stances, head kick, I like what he does, and let's see if he goes out there and makes the most of his welterweight debut.
Yeah,
even though technically it's not his welterweight debut because he missed weight his last fight.
But, in this fight, I love Lepre. I mean, when the line came out, it was minus 3 something. I can't remember exactly. So, I was looking to put that in the parlay. But, the fans jumped on it, and rightfully so. I mean, what's Camozzi got, to be honest? I mean, I seen him in RFA fighting 5'6" welterweights, getting tagged inside the pocket, and I mean, against a guy like Lepre who has wins over OAM, Barberina, been in there with a way better competition and just flatlined Thibaut Gotti, by the way. And to be honest, I thought he beat Ross Pearson. I thought he won every round against Ross.
And we bet Ross.
Even though I did bet Ross that night live, I thought we lost, but we were very fortunate that we were in Ross territory, so we got the nod. But Lepre, moving up 15 pounds, he's going to have that water in his head. He's not going to, be diminished. And like I said, I don't think Camozzi belongs in the UFC. This has nothing to do with his brother. This is just a skill factor. Lepre is better all across the board. If by any means we're having trouble on the feet, we can always take him down. Lepre's got good takedowns as well. But Camozzi is going to get smoked here. I got Lepre by second round TKO.
Unfortunately, it's minus 500.
Yeah, unfortunately, DSI still hasn't opened the line, but it is what it is.
Travis Brown, he's minus 220. He's taking on Alexei Olenek, the boa constrictor. He's plus 180. Now, Alexei's my boy. If you can knock out Jared Roshaw, I'm a fan of yours.
I'm a big Alexei fan, too. I called that upset at plus 335 against Jared Rosal way back in the day. And, I've also bet against Alexei, against Dan O when he was coming off that 2-year layoff. And, Alexei's one of these guys, he's good in chaos. He has to make something crazy happen. And, in this fight with Travis, I'm going to take Travis in this one just because I don't think Alexei can. I think his striking's sloppy. It's real loose all over the place. It's bad. It's bad, to be honest. I'm not saying that he can't knock out Travis. This is a heavyweight fight. And Travis has been, repeatedly finding ways to quit in fights. The Verdum fight, he said his finger was broken and he quit. That's a TKO, And then against Black Beast, he has him hurt and he finds a way to get knocked out. And since, the allegations came out, I mean, this dude's been on a straight, decline. I do think Travis is going to get this one just because I don't think Alexei, as bad as Travis is, I still don't think Alexei's on his level. I think Alexei has to pull off something crazy, a KO just out of his ass. And I can't bet it because I'm not going to bet on a guy to pull off something that he's not known for necessarily. I don't think he's going to take Travis down. Travis still has good takedown defense. He can still stuff, and we know about those elbows when his back's against the fence. So, I'm gonna go with Travis in this one. Definitely not betting on Travis. I mean, I don't bet on quitters, and I don't bet on guys that mentally check out in fights, but I just don't think Alexi has that much to trouble him, per se. I mean, I don't think he's going to take him down, but if he knocks him out, hey, he knocks him out.
The bottom line is Travis Brown hasn't been the same guy since the first Werdum fight. That's all there is to say. He's been a shell of himself. Before the first Werdum fight, he was this animal that people feared in the heavyweight division. Now he's the joke. He's the running joke of the heavyweight division, man. It's not the same guy we used to see. And even, the fights he won, like the Alistair Overeem fight, he got the absolute shit beat out of him, the entire fight until he landed that one kick. So it's not like he's gone out there and, he systematically dismantle these guys or anything like that. He's just, he landed a couple cool elbows, and he made his name that way. And I think that's coming to a screeching halt. And I think that Alexei Olenek, he's won like 10 of his last 11, and his only loss was a majority decision against the guy who had a meldonium exception going in the fight. I think that Alexei Olenek's going to find a way to win, man. I mean, this is a guy that knocked out Jared Roshaw. He's a guy that schoolyard headlocked Mirko Krokop, and he's done it to a couple other guys, too. He did it to Anthony Hamilton, and I think he's going to find a way to do something very embarrassing to Travis Brown, and I think Travis Brown is going to head to Bellator after this fight. So I got Alexei Olenek for the upset. Now, next up. You ready for this, man? 2 years ago, this would have been a title fight in the lightweight division. 2 years ago, this would have been
More than 2 years ago.
5
years ago.
Maybe 3 years ago, this would have been two top 5 guys going at it. We got Anthony Showtime Pettis. He's minus 245 in 2017, Shaq. He's taking on Jim Miller, who's plus 205. And I mean, look. Let me just ask you the question. Let's cut to the bullshit. Everyone knows who both these guys are. Is Jim Miller going to do it, man?
I'm still on the fence, but, I will pick Jim Miller in this. I mean, when's the last time Anthony Pettis showed up to a fight?
Can I say this? I don't want to discredit a fighter that I looked up to, a guy that innovated the sport when he jumped off the fence in the WEC against Benson Henderson, a guy who was, in his prime, one of the best pound-for-pound fighters on planet Earth. But at this point in time, it's the fight game like we talk about. He hasn't been that guy. And anyways, what I was trying to say was, even in his championship defense against Gil Melendez, I started to kind of see that it wasn't the same guy, man. And then, honestly, I thought he looked amazing against Rafael Dos Anjos. He landed a clean head kick to the chin, and Rafael just took it for some reason. Anyone else would have went down. But after that, he was never the same ever again.
I mean, he just mentally broke. It was kind of like something we were talking about earlier in Jessica I. Not saying that he's checking out, but his style hasn't changed. He goes out there, his back's still on the fence. Against these wrestlers, he finds ways to just find himself on his butt in bad positions, and it hasn't changed. And, if Jim sticks to a game plan, and the game plan isn't hard. Jim is a D1 wrestler. Jim has all the tools to win this fight. Jim's actually been showing up to his fights lately. The Dustin Poirier fight, he showed up. Even though he got his ass whipped, he showed up. The Thiago Alves fight, he ate 2 flush head kicks and was fine. And the timing of the takedowns are beautiful, to be honest. So Jim Miller's been showing up to his fights, as where Pettis, the last time, even the Charles Oliveira fight, even though he won, we know the deal with Charles. Kick him in the body and he'll shut down. So, I'm not going to put...
Charles,
yeah,
too.
Jim leg locked Charles back in the day. But my thing is, if Jim goes out there and sticks to him like glue, he can easily take this fight. He will have to, eat a big body kick, but that kick ain't even the same anymore. These guys, that are past their prime, all their skills start diminishing just slowly. So that kick, if you go back and watch that fight with Eddie Alvarez, you can arguably say Eddie Alvarez was kicking harder than Pettis. Like, Eddie Alvarez was walking through that body kick like it was nothing. So, I feel like once Pettis realized that kick wasn't the same, I mean, I feel like his game is just diminished. And, I'm gonna go with Jim here. I'm still on the fence as far as a bet, just because, Jim historically does not win these big fights. And, this is a big fight. This is the fight that Jim won. And you remember when these guys were coming over from the WEC, Jim Miller was on the record for saying that these guys are overrated and that they're not going to hang in the UFC. And he's already lost to two of them. So, Benson and Cowboy. So let's see if the third one beats him. But I'm going to go with Jim here.
You know what, man? I'm going to agree with you, man. I'm going to go with Jim Miller here. Look, Anthony Showtime Pettis will not get his back off against the fence. That's the bottom line. Jim Miller knows what he has to do here. The kick is not the same that it used to be. Go watch Anthony Pettis versus Benson Henderson the second time they fought, man. That body kick was absolutely devastating, man. You cringe when you hear the sound of that body kick. And then go watch it against Eddie Alvarez. It's not the same at all. Go watch it against Charles Oliveira. You know what? He did show up against Max Holloway. It was a title fight. You do show up, but he still got stopped for the first time. It's just at that point where he's getting stopped in his career now. He's not the same guy. Do you remember how innovative he used to be? Remember how when Anthony Pettis used to fight, it used to be like when Anderson Silva used to fight. You'd always wonder what Anthony Pettis was going to throw next. He was just he was so ahead of his time, man, and I really miss those days. But at this point in time, Jim Miller, look, let's be honest with it. I know he lost that fight to Dustin Poirier, but at the end of the day, this is just a fact. Jim Miller got a draw on one judge's scorecard against Dustin Poirier in 2017. That's all I got to say about that. Can Anthony Pettis say that in 2017? I don't think so. So, honestly, I am thinking about taking a one-unit shot on Jim Miller just to find out if Anthony Pettis really is on the way out. I don't buy the, I'm hungry again and this and that. I think Sergio Pettis, you got to look out for that guy. I think that guy might be a future world champion. It's his time. He hasn't been there yet. Anthony Showtime's been there. He's done that, man. He's got the hot girlfriend. He's got the big house. He's got the everything, man. Jim Miller wants a taste of that, man. Jim Miller's been in the UFC a long time. He's been there.
Jim Miller's got that too.
He's got that in a sense. He's got over 20 fights, but I don't think Jim Miller's ever beat a former champion. No. You know what I'm saying? This will be the biggest win of Jim Miller's career, man. So I think he's going to be hungry for it, and, anything can happen. Look, because in their primes, Anthony Pettis would absolutely go out there and head kick Jim Miller and put him out, body kick him and put him out. Because you remember against that Cowboy fight when Jim Miller basically quit twice in that fight. But Jim Miller, he overcame the Lyme disease, man, and whatever it was, man, that Thiago Alves performance and the Dustin Poirier performance, that's a new Jim Miller, or basically it's Jim Miller's back. Let's just put it that way. I'm not convinced Showtime's back. So for that reason, man, I'm going to go with Jim Miller here. We'll see what happens. Now, next up, this is funny because we were talking about this for MaxBet season before we found out what the line was going to be. It's Curtis Blades is minus 900. The comeback on Danny Maldonado and Daniel Omalanchuk's plus 600. We didn't realize it was about to be minus 100 on this shit. Minus 900 on this shit.
Yeah, I mean... Wow. When the fight got announced, I was looking at all over on Blades, figuring out ways I could, bet him. But, it's out the question now. Blades is, Blades has all the potential in the world. We're talking about a guy who took down Francis Ngannou in his debut, absolutely mauled Cody East, mauled Milstead. And, this is going to be his... Since Ngannou, this is going to be, the best guy he's ever fought. Omalanchuk, he has the same problem with Pettis, always with his back on the fence, always getting taken down. And, I mean, when you're getting taken down by Stefan Struve, there's a very good chance you're going to get taken down by Curtis Blades with a blast double. Only way I see Curtis losing this fight is if he tries to go out there and test his striking. He's been working with Dwayne Ludwig a lot in Colorado. And, if he wants to go out there and test his striking, I'm not saying that he can't beat Dano in that area, but Dano's tough, man. Dano's a vet, and even though he's got that big belly, he's still very agile for a heavyweight, and he can crack. So if he wants to test his stand-up, I don't think that's a smart idea. I would use the typical game plan to beat Dano, which is just taking him down and hold him against that fence, which he He loves to have his back on the fence and, finish him off with some ground and pound strikes and move on and, become a top 15 guy. Take that top 15 spot from Dano.
You see what Curtis Blades did in his last fight? Man, he threw that guy out of the octagon, and basically he's got the chance to do that here. I think that's what he's going to do here. I mean, at the same time, Curtis Blades is a little bit green. I mean, you remember that fight with Cody East? Even though he beat the fuck out of Cody East, those elbows to the side of the head were vicious. He got taken down from by Cody East. So, he tends to fuck around a lot, but the potential is there. The athleticism is there. I don't think this is going to be one of those spots where, he takes a learning lesson from the vet, Danny Omalanchuk. I do think this is going to be a showcase fight for Curtis Blades. So I got the minus 900 favorite here. Next up, Alistair the Reem Overeem is taking on Fabricio Vaicavalo Werdum. What are you thinking, man?
This is a trilogy fight. Werdum, a legend, at one point was the greatest heavyweight of all time. And Overeem is a top 5 heavyweight of all time. Wins over JDS, Werdum, Andrei Arlovsky. This guy, he's a legend. A K1 champion, Strikeforce champion. One thing I noticed about Werdum in the Travis Brown fight, early on in the fight, he was doing the same thing that cost him his title against Stipe. He was running in face first, and, I pretty much pick Overeem against every heavyweight except, Stipe Miocic, the top guys, even though he's been KO'd like 8 or 9 times. Cautious Overeem is super hard to beat. The Overeem that runs away is super hard to beat with that high guard. That's the way he's got to fight. That's the way he's got to play it. If Fabricio can catch him on the chin and he goes down, then I won't be surprised at all. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's been KO'd several times, but I'm expecting Alistair to go out here, keep that high guard, run away, get Fabricio to run in with his chin up, and land a big counter and knock Fabricio out. I'm not concerned about the takedowns at all. I think Overeem stuffs those, beats him in the clinch. Fabricio's improved a lot, but I still think Overeem is gonna beat him on the feet and stuff the takedowns. We know the kick. Overeem's arguably the greatest heavyweight striker of all time. It's just that chin. And as long as he doesn't play around and do anything stupid, I think he's going to take this fight.
If you go back and you watch the second fight between Overeem and Werdum won the striking exchanges. It's just that he wasn't that confident in himself, and he'd outstrike Overeem, and then he'd flop to his back. He didn't stand up and keep striking. But if you look at the strike count, he outstruck Overeem in that fight, man. And I think since that point, he's working with Master Hoffa now. You saw what he's done. I mean, since he started working with Master Hoffa, he made it all the way to the world title, man. He dethroned Kane, and he's been looking better than ever. I think he's going to establish his jab. And I think the whole, people think he runs forward and this and that. He's been doing that his entire career. He's been getting away with it. Someone like Stipe can capitalize. I think Overeem can capitalize on certain situations, but I think that Werdum is going to go out there and pressure Overeem, and actually he's going to knock him out. He's going to use his tie clinch, go out there, and put a knee to the chin of Overeem, knock him out, and Werdum's going to be back for the title. I think that Master Hoffa is going to have Fabricio Werdum ready for this fight, and I think that's going to be all she wrote. So next up, the co-main event of the evening. You ready for this shit?
Yeah.
Robert Whittaker is minus 130. The Soldier of God, Yoel Romero, is plus 110. And man, what else is there to say?
Well, let's just get this, out there. Yoel Romero has cashed as an underdog 5 times in a row. And Daniel, what is he right now? He's an underdog. I mean, I don't see why not. It's not going to be 6, but hey, he's fighting Rob Whittaker, one of the nastiest boxers in the game right now. I mean, this guy's boxing is just insane. We remember what he did to Brad Tavares. We saw what he did to Jacare, the way he changed Rafael Natal's life. I know Rafael, got through all 3 rounds, but his life will never be the same anymore.
You saw his fight after?
Yeah, exactly. He'll never be the same after that, but Yoel Romero, obviously has the wrestling advantage, but can he get Rob down? I don't think he necessarily has to. I think their plan is to go out there and, trade with Rob. And, this guy is an underdog. I told myself, anytime Yoel Romero's an underdog, you should bet it. And, I'm still not going to do it. But, it is what it is. I think Yoel's going to pull this off, though, in a chaotic situation. A big flying knee or just a big overhand left or a spinning back fist like in the Jacare fight. Something odd just because that's the way he generally gets his business handled. But I don't blame anyone for betting on either guy. These are in my opinion, these are the two best middleweights in the division. I would max bet both of these guys against Bisping. And I'm gonna go with Yoel just because he finds a way. Third round, Yoel Romero turns it up and he's cashed as an underdog 5 times in a row. Why would I doubt him again,
I don't know what to say here, man. I mean, these are the two best guys in that division. They could both win this fight at any point. Robert Whittaker is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the way that he fakes you out and then he comes out of nowhere with that leaping left hook. He's so fast for the weight class. He's so agile. Yoel Romero is just a freak of nature. He explodes out of nowhere. He lulls you into a false sense of security. It's just, this is the best fight of 2017. This is the best fight that the UFC's put on in a very long time. I don't see a reason in betting this fight because why would you feel confident betting against Robert Whittaker or Yoel Romero? Now, I understand why you'd feel confident betting on Robert Whittaker or Yoel Romero, but betting against either guy, that sounds crazy to me. I mean, both these guys are phenomenal. Now, people talk about how Yoel gasses out and this and that. He's won like 5 of 8 of his UFC wins by third round knockout, and then another 2 are by decision, and then the other one's by first round knockout. So I don't see the deal with the third round talk, man. He finds a way to win no matter what it is, and he was the same way in his wrestling career. He'd wait until the moment to win the fight, and then he'd go out there and win the fight or win the match in that sense. And Robert Whittaker, he's absolutely phenomenal. Ever since he moved up to 185, the speed, the power, everything's translating. And I just love the way he lunges in. I love his aggression in there. I love how he mixes it up. He mixes up that jab, and then out of nowhere, when you least expect it, that 1-2 to the head kick. Then he starts bombing with the uppercuts. And his scrambling ability, I'll go as far as saying that he has the best takedown defense since Jose Aldo. And Yoel Romero, you try to take that guy down, as Chris Weidman did, he pops right back up as well. I mean, both these guys, their athleticism, their skill, their will to win, it's amazing. It's just, one guy's super young in Robert Whittaker, and one guy is old and 40 years old in Yoel Romero, and I don't know if that makes a difference here. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be about who imposes their will on the other. I really have no clue. I hope this fight is a draw, but at the same time, I want both of them to be champion. I wish that Yoel was fighting Bisping. He could go out there, finish Bisping, and then Whittaker could come in and maybe dethrone Romero. So, dude, I have no idea. Whoever's the underdog on fight day, I'll pick in Toutmaster, but I don't have a pick for this fight. I think they're both the best guys on planet Earth. I think they're both the champions. And I think that picking against one of these guys is almost foolish. And, someone's going to be like, oh, whoever the winning side is going to be like, oh, what do you mean it was foolish? But before the fact, it's just kind of like, why would you pick against Yoel Romero, the guy that's came through for me every single time I've bet him? Why would I pick against Robert Whittaker, the guy that's come through for me every single time I've bet him? And they've both been the underdogs almost every single time. I mean, and this style matchup is ridiculous. So I'm just planning to see one of the best fights that I've seen in a very long time. I just want to be a fan on this one. I want to sit back. I want to really enjoy it. I want to turn my phone off. I just want to take this one in, and may the best man win. Whoever wins this is the middleweight championship in my mind. This is not the interim belt. This is the real belt as far as I'm concerned. And may the best man win. That's all I got to say about that, man.
Yeah, man, I can't wait. It's the greatest middleweight title fight of all time.
It really is. And guess what? We got another title fight. Amanda Nunes, she's minus 110. And Valentina Shevchenko is also minus 110.
If I win all my bets for this weekend, I am looking to play Valentina Shevchenko if it hits dog money. So two things have to happen there, but I like Valentina in this fight. I think Amanda Nunes, what can I say? I feel like she's more of a product of her opponents. Now, I know she beat Valentina already, but that was Valentina's second fight in the UFC, coming off the Sarah Kaufman fight. And, she had to take that first UFC L. It was just too much too soon. And, I bet Valentina that night. I was very disappointed. But in that third round, the thing we know about Amanda Nunes happened again. She gassed out and she quit. When this chick loses that energy level, it's over with. She will look for that way out. And, now this being a 5-round fight, we have those 2 extra rounds to come and take over this fight. And, I think the exact same thing's going to happen again. Like, Amanda Nunes, after she lost to Kat Zingano, she had the perfect matchups to get her to that title shot. We're talking about after she loses to Kat, she goes in there against Shayna Baszler. Come on, easy fight. Then she goes in there against Sarah McMahon, who at the time was a quitter, who will take a knee in a fight. Then she goes in there against, Valentina, gets that win, which was her best win during that little stretch. And then after that, she gets Miesha Tate, who we know is one of the most hittable chicks ever in terms of that upper echelon of women's fighters. And then Ronda Rousey, who was completely done at the time, who didn't want to fight anymore, who quit the sport, who ballooned up like a whale after that fight. So it was more of a product of matchups in that opinion. And all those chicks are hittable. And, in that first fight, Valentina, she was just too much on the defense. But now, man, she's improved so much. She's going to... And Amanda knows she can't charge her. She can't charge her like how she does everyone else because she knows the counters are going to, be presented for Valentina. So, I think this fight will hit round 3. And when it hits round 3, that's when Valentina's going to take over. Amanda might get a takedown in the first round or 2, but I don't think Valentina's gonna get her back taken or submitted or anything. If anything, it's just gonna make that energy level come down even quicker. So I like Valentina in this one.
You know what, man? I completely understand where you're coming from, and if this does go to the later rounds, I'll completely be like, wow, if I'm picking Amanda, I'll be like, damn, Valentina's about to take over. But what I'm thinking here, man, is that Amanda's a different fighter now, man. That firepower is on a different level. I think she's going to actually come out here and take Valentina out quick. I don't even think that Valentina's going to be able to weather the storm. I think that Amanda, she feels like she's the champion now. She feels like the octagons are home. She's feeling more confident than ever. I think she's going to come out there and beat the undersized Valentina Shevchenko very quick, whether it's a knockout, whether it's a submission. I think she's going to do it in the first round.
Wow.
I bet you didn't expect that. Everyone's picking Valentina. I'm going to come on the other side, take the champ, Nunes. We'll see what happens. I'm not betting on the fight, so, I can't talk too big, but I'm going to go with Amanda. Let's see what happens. So it's time for the Big Marley Minute.
It's time for that Big Marley Minute.
All right, here we go. Joining me now on the Big Marley Minute is Big Marley himself, Kyle Marley. How's it going, man?
Great, man. Looking forward to this weekend. I'm going to head out to Vegas tomorrow, go to these fights, and hopefully win some money.
Man, it's going to be a good time. You got the best fight of 2017 between Robert Whittaker and Yoel Romero. Look, man, as a fan, how can you not just sit back and enjoy that one? But as a daily fantasy sports player, is this another one of those situations where you put both those guys in your lineup or what?
I don't mind that move. Again, in cash games where you're head-to-heads, I don't hate that move at all. But your tournaments, I think you're going to have to pick a side. If you're doing one lineup, I do think you need this fight in there. However, if you're making 10 lineups, I'm not against both of these guys in all 10 of them. Maybe if you like Whittaker, have 7 Whittaker, 3 Yoel, because whoever wins this fight will score high. This is the one I'm looking forward to the most.
And, man, there's so many underdogs to choose from. You got a guy like Jim Miller who's plus 205 currently. We know Anthony Showtime Pettis hasn't been in prime form at all for a very long time. But then you also got a guy in Douglas Silva de Andrade. He's 24-1. We don't often see records like that in modern day mixed martial arts. I mean, you think these are two underdogs we could look to kind of beef up the team a little bit?
Yeah, I do think. Actually, I think Miller will be kind of highly owned since he is so low of a price on DraftKings. So I don't know how much Miller I'm going to have. I do think Pettis wins the fight, but you might be onto something there with Andrade because I don't think he'll be highly owned at all. I can see a lot of people being on Font just because he finishes a lot of his fights. So that could be a great play right there that sneaks under the radar and could win a GPP if he can pull out that win. I might have to do some of that myself. You might have just talked me into it.
Well, I think the most highly owned player is going to be minus 900 Curtis Blades. I think that, the consensus is that, I mean, especially after his last fight, everyone thinks he's going to go out here and basically throw Daniel Omalanchuk out of the octagon.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with that play at all. I think if you're going to go up to that higher range, he is the play. I don't see how he loses this fight. So I'll definitely have a lot of Blades myself. And if you're going with these top three guys, I don't know how you can really go Laprice and Font over Blades unless you really just need that cap room to put better underdogs in your team. But, yeah, I like Blades a lot. He'll be very highly owned, probably the highest. Like, you're right.
Now, what do you think about this fight between Bilal Muhammad and Jordan Meehan? Because Bilal, he is a point fighter. I mean, he's known for winning those decisions, but whenever Jordan Meehan is able to get a victory, he usually knocks dudes out in the first round.
Yeah, basically, since if he's going to win, it's going to be in the first round. He's a good guy to target in tournaments. However, I'm a big value guy with DraftKings, so I'm looking at DraftKings right now, and they're both priced 8,100. But then if you go to the betting lines, we're sitting at Muhammad is minus 165. So there's a lot of value right there in DraftKings. So that immediately puts Muhammad on a lot of my teams, especially a cash game. You definitely want that value in cash games. However, you're right. If Mean wins, it's going to be early, and that's going to score a lot of points in DraftKings as well. So I would say he is only a tournament player where you can use Muhammad in both kinds of formats.
And I feel like you got to flip a coin in a fight between Thiago Santos and Gerald Meerschaert, because if you put both of them on your team, one guy's going to lose either by knockout or submission. I think it's either Thiago winning by knockout or Gerald by submission. So the loser is not going to score a lot of points. You got to make a decision. Which of the two do you put in your team?
Yeah, agreed. I think this is a lot like that Yoel fight where you have to have one of them on your team because they're going to score a lot of points. So you just got to pick a side on this one. I'm going to have both guys. So like I said, I'm a multiple lineup kind of guy. So if I have 10 lineups, I could see me going maybe 6 Meerschaert, 4 Santos kind of thing. Because I do like both these guys. I can see them both scoring very highly. And I haven't made my mind up on who's going to win it yet either.
And man, this guy, Alexei Olenek, it's kind of interesting because you saw his last fight. He won in the full mount with an Ezekiel choke, but he was on the bottom in full mount. He's a guy that totally flies under the radar. He beat Mirko Krokop via a schoolyard headlock. That's the kind of badass we're dealing with here. And Travis Brown, I mean, he's been on such a decline for the last many years. He's been getting knocked all over the place. You know that Travis Brown's going to be the favorite here. You think Alexei's a guy that maybe people are sleeping on? You think we can put him in our lineups too?
Yeah, I mean, I've actually been thinking about that myself because if he wins, you're right, he's probably going to sub him out, be on top, get those takedowns, score a lot of points. And I've been thinking, I don't know how much Brown I want because even if he wins, I don't know how highly he scores. He's going to have to get that knockout early to score highly. And I don't know how much he's going to be pushing the pressure because he does not want to be taken down, I'm thinking. So I think if there's a play in that one, it's Olenek.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. Is there anything I'm missing here?
Oh, man, it's a good card. I'm not loving the DraftKings myself yet. I don't have any lineups I'm confident in. It is a really interesting card, but I think we did hit on the big names. Like I said, though, in cash games, I think Muhammad should be pretty highly owned because of that value. And Meehan would only be a tournament kind of play. So you want to think of those kind of things when you're setting your lineups, what kind of contest you're entering.
Well, Kyle, man, I hope you have an absolute blast in Vegas. I mean, you're going to be there the same time that Whittaker versus Romero is going down. And come back with a lot of money, my man.
Hey, man, that's the plan. Actually, I got one more thing. Looks like in the last half hour or so, DraftKings just put out another qualifier-only tournament. So these are you have to win a tournament to get in, but they have contests posted for UFC 213 where you can try to win this tournament to get in. And it looks like 100 people can get in. It's going to be 3 rounds. The first round, all 100 will compete. The top 50 will advance, and you're going to get paid out based on where you're at. Round 2, 50 compete. 25 of them advance. You're going to get paid out a lot more. And then round 3, the remaining 25 compete, and it's a $20,000 top prize. So I would recommend taking a shot at one of these qualifier tournaments just to try to get in here. Because if you finish 100th place, you make $500. So not too bad.
Hey, well, Kyle, any other little secrets you want to tell the fans? I mean, I expect you to come home with that $25K, but look, if you want to give me 10%, by all means.
I just say, Rick, I recommend getting in there yourself. You can get 3 entries, get a shot at 20 G's. Somebody that knows fighting as well as you do, I think you got a good chance to be in that final 100. So it's worth taking at least a $3 shot trying to win a tournament, you know?
Yes, sir. Well, Kyle, we always appreciate your time. I mean, the fans have been hitting me up. They love the Big Marley Minute. Finally, we're able to give DK advice. I got to step up my DraftKings game big time. You know, doing well everywhere else, but man, the DK is lacking, but that's why you're here. That's why you're the #1 guy on planet Earth right here, right now on Half the Battle. Kyle, thank you so much for the time, brother. They can follow you at Kyle Marley 3. And any parting words for the fans?
No, that's it. It's actually a Big Marley 3 on Twitter. But yeah, let's win some money this weekend. I hope we got some good fights.
Did I really just say Kyle Marley 3?
It happens, man.
Wow. I mean, that's almost as bad as that Eric Koch play last week, Kyle.
No, it's not that bad. Don't worry about it. It's definitely not that bad.
All right, brother. I'll catch up with you
too.
soon, man. Hey, you have a blast in Vegas, all right?
All right, man. I appreciate it. Take care.
All right, my man. See ya. So we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So, Shaq, the fight to watch for UFC 213. You know, I know we're gonna pick the same thing. What is it, man? Tell them what it is.
My fight to watch actually is gonna be Travis Brown versus Alexi, man.
Wow.
I mean, Travis Brown, he's funny to me, man. This guy does weird stuff. He'll look at the ref, you know, saying my finger's broken, or, you know, he'll look at the ref when he's getting pounded on by Derek Lewis and act like it's an eye poke. So this guy will look for his way out, and it's funny to me. And, you know, Alexi, he's funny as well. Like, Alexi throws a lot of awkward stuff in there, and we know if Alexi wins, it's going to be either by brutal KO or one of the boa constrictor submissions and Ezekiel choke. So, you know, I'm going to say that's the fight to watch.
Dude, there's not even a question that the fight to watch is Robert Whittaker versus Yoel Romero. I mean, this is probably the best fight of 2017. It's the best fight that we've seen in years. I would say 2 of the top 5 pound-for-pound fighters on planet Earth. I don't care what anyone says. People say DJ's #1. I mean, what about Yoel Romero, Robert Whittaker, man? Those dudes will kick his ass. You know what I'm saying, man? So I think this is such an incredible fight. And just call your friends that don't even watch MMA. Tell everyone you know about Robert Whittaker versus Yoel Romero. This is a once-in-a-lifetime fight. That is your fight to watch. Shaq, your fighter to watch.
You know, I got a bet on him. It's early on the undercard, and it's going to be Cody Stamion. I think we're going to get introduced to one of the top prospects at 45 and 35, wherever he chooses to fight in his UFC career. And I think he's going to have a impressive performance against Tyrion Ware here. And I'm really interested to see how he takes care of business. So I'm going to say Cody Stamion.
You know, my fighter to watch is Bilal Muhammad. Look, he's been win-loss in his UFC career. But I think if he goes out here, he beats Jordan Meehan, he gets his first UFC win streak, I think he can go out there, he can make a big name for himself, because Jordan Meehan, he's been around the game a long time. He's been in there with guys like Matt Brown. He's been in there with guys like Cyborg. And, you know, I do think that this would be a big win for Bilal Muhammad. So for that reason, he is my fighter to watch. So, Shaq, we did it, man. UFC 213. Robert Whittaker versus Yoel Romero. Cannot wait. I can't believe it's finally this week, man. And, shit, how excited are you for that fight?
Man, I've been ready for this for like a whole month now, so I'm pumped up, and I'm ready to, you know, make this money, man.
Yes, sir. Follow Shaq at MMA Genius 05. Follow me at Best Fight Picks. Go to bestfightpicks.com for the plays. Subscribe to Half the Battle on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Stitcher. And until next time, let's cash these bets.